My name is Andrew Doyle. Join me every Sunday evening at 7 p.m. for Free Speech Nation. This is a show where we address current affairs and news stories of the week with the help of two wonderful comedian panellists. I brought in comics because I want to give it a lighter edge, and also they work for less. See you there.
Hi there, it's Stephen and Anne.
At breakfast from 6 a.m, you'll always be caught up with everything you need to know, the latest headlines, opinions and debates.
We'll bring you the good news and the bad, but most of all, we're here for you.
Remember, send in your views and let us know what you would like us to talk about.
That's because we're your news channel. And every morning at 6 a.m, it's breakfast on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton Tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Well, hello there, it's 6 o'clock, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and this is Dewbs & Co, the show where we'll get into some of the things that got you talking today. And we're back, look, in the studio, fresh from the Working Man's Club over in Leigh. Did you watch that special last night with Liz Truss? Did you enjoy it? Gotta say, I certainly did. But back to the news of the day, energy prices. Have you seen this? How depressing. Up and up and up, that is the only direction they are going. Some people have been estimating 4,000 earlier on today. Other people estimating £5,000. I mean, goodness gracious me, what does that figure even make you feel? How worried are you about energy prices? There's lots of suggestions coming from lots of different places. People like Gordon Brown, Ed Davey, coming up saying press pause on the energy price cap. Renationalise these people, these companies. Are those really the right answers? There's been a meeting today of all the so-called fat cats. Gotta say, it didn't really amount to anything. So what are we going to do in this situation? What should we do in this situation? I want you to tell me your thoughts on that. And get this, £60 million. I'll say that again, £60 million. 60 is the sum that have been spent policing the Extinction Rebellion process since 2019. What a waste. I say we need to get so much tougher on protesters. Do you agree with me though? And Donald Trump, remember him? He's claiming he's subject to a witch hunt. Is he? And should we be worried about it? If he is. We'll have all of that to come, but first let's get up to date on tonight's latest news headlines.
Thanks, Michelle. I'm Ray Addison in the GB newsroom. Energy companies have agreed to do more to help struggling families after the Prime Minister urged them to act in the national interest. The talks follow a dire warning, with one consultancy firm forecasting that the cap on energy bills could reach £5,000 next year. Despite the plea from Boris Johnson, there's been no official announcement of any immediate help. The Chancellor says the government will continue to evaluate the extraordinary profits being made in certain parts of the sector and consider what steps to take. Tory leadership contender Liz Truss has hinted she would consider further support for struggling families if she becomes Prime Minister. She made the comments during the People's Forum on GB News, having previously taken a hard stance on so-called handouts. The Foreign Secretary and former Chancellor Rishi Sunak will address Tory party members at a hustings in Cheltenham this evening. Former leader Sir Ian Duncan-Smith supports Liz Truss's approach to the crisis.
What you want to do is to make sure, and she said this, any support we give must be properly targeted and measured against those who need it most, so that those people can get the support that they need, rather than just scattering it across a whole income range right the way up to people like you and me who are going to receive more money later on in October, when you could argue that we're not the ones in need, it's those in need who are facing difficulties with their bills. So targeted support is what she's talking about, properly measured and also funded.
In other news, a 39-year-old man has been charged following incidents in Skye and Wester Ross, which left one man dead and 3 people injured. John McKinnon was killed as a gunman targeted a number of properties in the area. His family released a statement describing him as a loving husband and father of 6. The suspect will appear at Inverness Sheriff Court on Friday. Ferry company CalMac says it wasn't to blame for food shortages in the Scottish Western Isles. It comes after reports that island shops were forced to ration essential items such as milk and bread over the weekend due to problems in getting produce to the island. The shortage had been blamed on a CalMac ferry which had been taken out of service. However, the company says its delivery service had still been operating using alternative routes. A man who was allegedly part of the IS terror cell known as the Beatles has been remanded in custody. Ain Davis was arrested at Luton Airport after being deported from Turkey, where he was serving a prison sentence. The 38-year-old from West London appeared at Westminster Magistrates Court charged with terrorism offences. He'll now appear at the Old Bailey next month. Ryan Giggs' ex-girlfriend has told a court she's hugely ashamed that she kept going back to the former Man United player who promised her the world. The 48-year-old is on trial accused of controlling and coercive behaviour as well as assault against Kate Greville. Asked why she moved into his home if he'd been a serial and violent abuser, she said the cycle of abuse made her feel insecure. Giggs is also accused of assaulting her sister. He denies all the charges against him. 26 countries have pledged more than £1.2 billion in aid to boost Ukraine's military defence against Russia. The UK has also promised to send more weapons, including multiple launch rocket systems and precision-guided missiles. Speaking at an event in Copenhagen, Defence Secretary Ben Wallace said the aid is designed to help Ukraine win the war.
We have come out of this meeting with more pledges of finance, more pledges of training and more pledges of military aid, all designed to help Ukraine win, to help Ukraine stand up for its sovereignty and indeed to ensure that President Putin's ambitions fail in Ukraine, as they rightly should.
And water industry insiders say they expect an official drought to be declared tomorrow. An amber heat warning is currently in place. The risk of wildfires is exceptional across parts of England and Wales for the next few days. The Met Office has raised its fire severity index to its highest level following the prolonged dry conditions. Temperatures set to hit 36 degrees on Saturday. On TV, online and on DAB+ radio, this is GB News. Now back to Dewbs & Co.
Thanks for that. Well, keeping me company until 7 o'clock tonight. I've got my panel, Daniel Moylan, who's the former advisor to the former now Prime Minister Boris Johnson, almost, isn't it? And Dr. Lisa Mackenzie, the ethnographer and academic. Good evening to both of you.
Good evening.
Looking nice and summery look. I like this. Very nice and summery.
Summer into the studio.
We have got some. If you're listening and you're not watching, you're missing out. We've got some bright yellow hair to my left and a nice, almost like a rainbow-esque tie to my right. And I'm just
flowers
in white. Yeah, white flowers. Yeah,
yeah,
nice and summery in the studio. That's what we like today because it's boiling outside, isn't it? Goodness me. Right, did you watch the show last night, by the way? Did you like it? I did. It was good fun, wasn't it? Being out in a working man's club. I loved it. Talking to Liz Truss. So if you did watch that, let me know some of your thoughts that you had on that. Did you get the answers that you want? Did you get your vote cemented, your mind set? Yes, that's the lady for me or not? Tell me your thoughts. And also, tell me what you think about the topics of the night. Energy, some estimates up to £5,000 now, goodness me. Donald Trump, has he been subject or is he being subject to a witch hunt? And protesters, £60 million of my and your taxes spent on policing the Extinction Rebellion process since 2019, goodness me. My email address, as always, gbviews@gbnews.uk. You can tweet me at gbnews or at Michelle Dewbs. Don't forget, when it comes to YouTube, is that your thing? You can download, you can subscribe to us there. Often, by the way, people ask about subtitles and they'll get in touch and say, Michelle, why have you not got subtitles? We're waiting. I think there's a component or something we're missing. They'll be coming soon. But if you are someone that needs subtitles or would like them, you can get them on YouTube as well, if that's a help for you. So just have a look, GB News on YouTube. And don't forget as well, you can listen to us on the radio, GB News on DAB+. So wherever you are tonight, you're very, very welcome. Let's get straight into it, shall we, and talk about energy bills. You know, every day now, it seems to be going up and up and up and up and up, and it's frightening for so many people, isn't it? Lots of people with lots of different ideas, the latest bunch. Gordon Brown was speaking out today. I'm laughing when I say Gordon Brown, because whenever I mention Gordon Brown, people write in and say, Gordon Brown, look at what he did with the gold, look at what he did with this. Lynn said, how can Gordon Brown give advice on anything? Him and Blair almost bankrupt the country. But I think let's leave Gordon Brown almost out of it for a second, but focus on the ideas, because what we do need right now is ideas. We can't carry on the way we're going, can we? Lisa, the meeting between what many of the newspapers are calling the fat cats today, the bosses of the energy companies, didn't really yield anything, really. So what are the answers? Nationalisation, renationalisation, Gordon Brown suggesting freezing the price cap, those kind of things. Where do you stand?
I think over the last few weeks, I think we all now realise that the price cap is not really a cap, because every 3 months the price cap is being removed. And if we're today talking about £5,000 a year, that is way, you know, there are families now that couldn't even dream to pay that. I worked it out yesterday. So I think it was something like yesterday at 4,300. It was like £80 a week that families were going to have to pay, which is £80 a week is for some people that's their whole week. You know, so what are they going to do? Are they going to really have to choose whether to put the heating on or eat? I mean, that's the truth now. So I think we are at a point now where we have to think about radical solutions. And if we do have to renationalise the energy companies, because they're not they can't be trusted, you know, but then we're going to have to do it.
But this doesn't stack up to me when I hear all of this conversation about nationalisation. Nationalise what?
I don't know. I mean, you know, we've got. I know. I'm going to be honest. You know, we've
nationalise something.
Yeah. Well, we've got E.ON.
We've got a problem, so we'll nationalise.
So E.ON is owned by the French. You know. So don't you think that? All right. If we don't renationalise them, then what do we do?
E.ON's distributor of electricity.
Yeah.
The people the company that's making the most money out of this.
Yeah,
it's Gazprom.
It's the Gazprom, yeah.
Okay? It's the Russians. So these are the people who are actually making money from it. If you want to nationalise the fat cats, go nationalise a Russian company.
Yeah, good luck with that.
Good luck with that.
Yeah, but the thing is, Daniel...
But over here, we've got people who do extract gas and oil from the North Sea, and they are making bumper profits over the last couple of months, but they're already taxed at 65% headline rate of tax coming up. So what's the right answer?
But they're still making...
Is it 75%, 80%?
Well,
and if you nationalise them...
Daniel, they're still making £7 billion in profit.
Yeah, but that was BP, made £7 billion in profit in the second quarter of this year. In the first quarter of this year, it made a loss.
But it's looking at making the same amount of profit in the next quarter.
But they're already
so
paying,
we have got to do something.
Paying 65% tax on that profit. So what is it that you think is the right rate of tax, 80%, 90%? But let's say you nationalise them. Then the great thing you get at the moment about having private sector involvement is that it takes an awful lot of investment up front, a lot of cash, to open up a new oil field or gas field. And then once it's opened up, you get a lot of gas coming out of it. So if we want to expand gas, is that going to come out of once you've nationalised them, is that going to come out of the taxpayer's pocket? Because that's just going to mean higher taxes. The risk of nationalisation is you end up with less gas, less gas, less oil, and higher taxes all at the same time.
What can we do?
It's a typical Gordon Brown prescription.
So let me ask you then. So we've got to admit that £5,000 energy bills a year is extortionate. It's robbery. And there are people pensioners who are on a fixed income, people who are on disability payments, people who are not working. They're not going to be able to afford that. There is no money.
Yeah, but
what can we do?
To do is well, the first thing is
I can't afford to do that.
Hang on, you're asking what to do. It's telling you.
Yeah, the government is already spending £37 billion over the next couple of months helping people.
It's not enough.
Everyone says it's not enough.
It's not enough.
It's not enough because why? Because a consultancy has said that there might be a £5,000 price cap next year. That's actually what we're working on the basis of.
Yeah.
Not actual facts, but some consultancy that's broadcast this. They may be right, they may be wrong. In the short term, something is actually happening to help people. By the time the new Prime Minister takes over, we can have a plan for doing something about it. What we can't do, in my view, is go back to the COVID type thing of spraying public money everywhere, because that has resulted in inflation of 10%, monetary policy completely out of control. It's more like what Ian Duncan Smith said, is identifying the sort of people you're talking about who really can't face this, the people with disability on disability benefits, the vulnerable people.
But what about those who are on £10 an hour?
Measures for them.
People who are working on £10 an hour are not going to be able to afford this either. You know, people who are working on £15 an hour aren't going to afford this.
Well, they're going to get higher wages. They're going to have to get higher wages.
And how was it going to do that?
This country, at the moment, has completely full employment. Okay? The main complaint employers have in this country is they can't get enough cheap labour.
Yeah, and the main complaint employees...
They need to pay better wages for people.
But aren't we supposed to be on a wage cap as well?
No, there isn't. Thank God there isn't a wage cap.
But that's what we've been told. But that's what we've been told.
We've been told that by the Bank of England.
When the RMT are on strike...
Hang on, don't talk over each other, because then people can't hear anyone.
I've never agreed with that. There's no wage cap, thank God, in this country. No national wage cap, nor should there be. We had all that in the 70s. It is a total disaster. And it's an insult to working people to tell them that their wages can't keep up with inflation. So I don't believe in all of that, and it isn't policy. Do
you support the strikes then?
No, I don't support strikes.
So how are people going to get higher wages?
Strikes are a totally different matter. I don't support strikes.
So how are people going to get higher wages then?
Well, look, there is nothing that I have to teach the RMT or ASLEF about how to squeeze higher wages out of the public sector when you've got train drivers on £60,000, £70,000 a year.
Which is an extremely skilled job.
And wages in the rail sector, which are way up there ahead of anything you get in, say, the bus sector, which is comparable in many ways.
Yeah, but hang on,
Nothing
Daniel.
I've got to teach them about how to get higher wages.
Yeah, but hang on, because look, so let me just tell you this. So the bottom 20% of households, they have a disposable income, this is as of 2021, of £1,300 a year spare. And this equates to about 6 million homes. So 6 million homes have about £1,300 a year spare. That will be low earners, vulnerable, you mentioned disabilities, pensioners. It'll be a variety of things. If you've only literally got £1,300 spare, it's not a case of I'm not going to pay my electricity bill. It's you can't.
I understand
you
that.
cannot.
And I think you're going to have to give help targeted at that. At those people. What you can't do, and this is the point about a price cap, and it was a stupid idea of Mrs May to have a price cap in the first place. What you can't do, in my view, is say, we're going to hold the price cap steady, because that way everybody will pay less, even those who can afford to pay more. And that, I think, is the wrong approach, and that's what we've had in the COVID sort of approach, and that's what Rishi Sunak seems to be saying. That, I think, is wrong. So I think we need a programme which is targeted on people who really need help.
But don't you think, so when I'm thinking about the energy companies, over the last 10 years...
Right, let me just be clear, when you say energy companies, what do you mean?
I suppose I'm talking about the E.ON and the company...
but the people
that you buy... Yeah, the distributors.
Yeah, but they don't make any gas. They just buy gas.
But what I'm saying
buy gas
is...
and power from somebody else. They don't generate it.
But so when the price of energy and gas goes up and down all the time, that never seems to be passed on to, households. That the money always sort of stays stable.
So you're barking up the wrong tree.
Can we trust the energy companies to drop this?
The distributors, the people who you pay your bills to, are actually not very profitable. They don't make much money at all. They're basically passing on something under a brand. They don't produce oil and gas, and they're not in that business. The generators, the people who generate the electricity that they're distributing, the people who own the power plants, they're not making a huge amount of money either.
Well, someone is.
Yeah, the people who are making money are the people who are producing oil and gas. And the biggest ones of those are abroad. We have some, because we do produce oil and gas in the North Sea. But that's where the money is being made at the moment. It's not being made downstream into your home.
But the penalty is downstream into our homes. That's the issue.
Because things have got more expensive.
But they haven't got more expensive.
Yes, they have.
No, they haven't got.
When I was a lad,
it's speculative. It's a speculative market.
It's
not harder.
Hang on, you can't talk over each other because people at home can't hear you.
The fact is that the Russians have got control of a large part of the gas market because they produce so much, and they're putting the squeeze on it and forcing the prices up. And they're doing that to punish us for supporting the Ukraine. Now, when I was young, back in 1971, there was an Arab-Israel war, and we saw the price of petrol go up it tripled in a matter of months. The price of petrol went up. We were all poorer as a result of that. It never came down again. It only ever went up after that. And that was exactly the same thing, because for the first time, the oil-producing states in OPEC had got enough control of the market for them to be able to say, we're going to punish you because you're too friendly towards Israel. Put the politics out of it for a moment. It's simply a case of producers putting the squeeze on the market and forcing up prices for their own geopolitical reasons. And the consequence of it is we're poorer. Now, we're better off, actually, than most countries in the European Union because we do produce our own oil and gas. So we have got some production of our own here, whereas most of them don't actually.
But we're currently importing more gas than we domestically produce for our use here.
Yeah, we always do. We have done. We don't produce enough gas to serve our needs, but we do produce some gas.
But, Daniel, whether we're better off or not is arbitrary. Because
it
is because
at the moment in Germany.
Hang on, let her come back.
Factories.
But whether we're better off than anyone else is arbitrary at the moment, because we know we are looking down the barrel of the next year where people, I mean, let's be really honest about this. Absolute poverty is returning. People are going to die of being...
Hang on, Daniel,
let a better answer than actually targeted help at people who need it.
But what is the targeted help? Because I can't see this as happening.
That has to be worked out. People want a panic answer now.
It's not panic. People are frightened. You know, when people are frightened, they need some answers.
They do need answers, but they can't expect answers that are going to say there isn't going to be a problem. There is a problem. We are all
We know there's a problem, yeah.
And we are going to be poorer as a result of this and what the Russians...
some of us will be poorer. Some of us will die. That is a fact. Because
do you appreciate that some people will, unfortunately, pass away in all likelihood because they can't afford to heat their homes. They can't afford to eat.
That's why we need a programme of targeted help, which the government, I think, can put in place starting in September, because the help that's going out in the next few weeks will help get through. These bills are not going up to 5,000 in the next few weeks. If they go up to 5,000 at all, we're talking about next year.
January.
There's time to do something about it with better evidence and better targeting once the new government, whoever leads it, takes place.
But I'll tell you what I think shameful, Daniel. All of this is happening now, right? And we've got this ridiculous situation in the Tory party where we've got almost Boris Johnson overseeing a zombie government, having meetings with the bosses of these producers, saying, well, you know, really, I'm not going to make any significant changes until the new person comes in September. By September, things will have already lifted in terms of people's direct debits. Many people would feel that's too late.
But by September, the programme that was announced by the government only a few weeks ago will be coming through into people's pockets and into people's bills. So that period is covered, so to speak.
Yeah, but it's only covered to a degree.
To panic.
350. It's about £350 for the poorest.
Plus the money that's being taken off bills, which is 400, which won't come through into your pocket, will be taken directly off your bill, and the extra payment to the pensioners. So all of that's coming through in the next few weeks. And I think, I mean, at the bottom of all this, Michelle, you and I agree. It's ridiculous that the Conservative Party gets rid of the Prime Minister like this. And then, of course, it's ridiculous that a consequence of that is they don't know who they're going to have in step to replace. I mean, it's the whole thing.
Yeah, but
here we are with it. I think the point, what the Gordon Brown thing is, which we all have to have a huge panic now, when actually there is still time to do this properly.
It doesn't, but I think what you need to understand, it doesn't feel like there's time for people who are struggling now.
That's because a lot of people are panicking and then
well, they're not
scooping them
panicking.
up.
They're opening their purse and there's nothing in there. And that's not panic. That's a reality for thousands of people, well, millions of people in the country. They're opening their purse and there is nothing in there now. And they're looking to the winter, and it may be scaremonger, we don't know, but we do know that our bills are higher in the winter. They're going to be higher. And people are frightened. And we don't have anybody trying to deal with this at all. So
or at least giving the impression, because you know what I would do if I was Boris Johnson, I'd have Liz and Rishi in these meetings. I'd come up with a collective solution as of now, because it's going to be one of those two.
Well, they don't have a collective solution because they don't agree on what the solution is.
But then,
and there's a democratic process in the Conservative Party to decide which one is actually going to take over. So, I mean, how can you... That's a completely mad idea.
Well, I don't think it's mad. I think it's very sensible.
Much less mad would be to say Boris should do it on his own and just tell them that's what I've done. That would at least make sense, because he is the Prime Minister.
But he won't do it.
That's not a bad idea,
That's not a bad idea.
I'll compromise. Yeah, I'll compromise on that one, actually. Why not? Why not, Boris, come up with the thing? You guys have been in touch. One of the things you're saying is tell these two to pack it in, talking over each other. So consider you've had 2 warnings now, you two. Third one, I'm going to kick them out, ladies and gentlemen. You come back, you do the second part just with me. I'll talk to you on my own. Right. Look, what else is everyone else saying? How to deal with the cost of energy bills? Simple. Get out on the streets and protest. Protest, protest, protest. Lee says mass protests results equal a scared government and immediate action. Lisa's raising a fist. We'll be talking about protesters, I can tell you, a bit later on in the programme. David said, well, to help with the energy crisis, we could have sold off our gold reserves. Unfortunately, Gordon Brown beat us to it, and the Americans are still laughing at us. Some people here saying a cap is not a cap if it keeps rising. The government should fix the cap instead of thinking about handouts. That's David saying this. The flaw in the plan with this, though, David, if you fix the cap here, if the wholesale prices are still going up and you've got an artificially low cap, all you're going to achieve then is you're going to push more suppliers out of the market. And one of the reasons, not the only one, but one of the reasons the standing charge has been increasing is to help cover the costs of shifting people from failed suppliers over to other ones. So whilst I know it sounds good on paper, you know, stick the cap, practically it would have unintended consequences. David also goes on to talk about nationalisation could work. What I would say to people is you're going to hear nationalisation thrown around a lot over the next few days. You've got to think it through, though, because what are you going to nationalise? As we've just been discussing, lots of these suppliers, these are not rolling in huge profits. So then if you start talking about, well, let's nationalise producers, lots of these producers are global organisations. So how are you even going to do that? If you look at the market cap of some of these big producers, you're talking about you're in your hundreds of billions. Who's going to pay for that and how? So that side of the argument doesn't make any sense. Personally, I think that energy, our whole strategy of energy and how we get our energy is the thing that should be looked upon, because we've put ourselves in a position to chase the green agenda where we've reduced coal. Many other countries, by the way, have been increasing their coal. We've reduced coal, we've been reducing the North Sea oil and gas activity, and we haven't been backdating it, backfilling it with a proper strategy. It's ludicrous.
This is something my dad talks about all the time. My dad's an ex-miner, and his pit, where I come from, all the pits closed pretty quickly. And my dad always talks about sitting on top, in his house, he's sitting on top of millions of tonnes of coal that can never be dug up.
It can be.
Yeah.
I mean, we have 300 years energy supply sitting in the ground underneath us if we wanted to use it. And of course it can be dug up. And used, but we decided not to. And this is one of the things, there's the energy bill, which is a new act of Parliament, is going through the House of Lords starting in 3 weeks' time, the 5th of September. And I'm going to be asking questions about these things because I don't think the government has a coherent strategy for what it wants to do.
And it was the Conservative Party that decided we didn't want coal.
Well, it was Conservative Party, but everybody's decided they don't want coal now. I mean, if you, it's the parties, at least the voices you'll hear saying we might look at coal are actually in the Conservative Party. You go and talk to the Labour Party, the Liberal Democrats, the Greens, they're all madly against coal. At least I'm open to it.
Yeah, well, it's all well and good, isn't it, saying let's reduce coal, let's be more green, but that's not really working, is it? So then we end up beholden to all different countries to buy externally gas that we need. I mean, it's just all ridiculous. Matthew says, Michelle, you might hate me for what I'm about to say, but I don't really care about the poor because they choose not to work, so stuff them all. Matthew, goodness gracious me, you do realise that when we're talking about low incomes, it is not just what you might call dolies, people choosing to just sit on the backside and not work. It might be people that, I don't know, they can't work, they might have disabilities, it might be people on low wages, it could be pensioner households. So yeah, actually, I do think that we should all care really about people who physically cannot, despite their best endeavours, afford to heat their home. I'll leave you to ponder that one. I'm going to come back in a couple of minutes. We'll be talking about protesters and I'll be talking about Donald Trump. I'll see you in a couple of minutes.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday. And there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. You've been cancelled. Join the club. Oh, my goodness me. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
My name is Andrew Doyle. Join me every Sunday evening at 7 p.m. for Free Speech Nation. This is a show where we address current affairs and news stories of the week with the help of two wonderful comedian panellists. I brought in comics because I want to give it a lighter edge, and also they work for less. See you there.
Hi there, it's Stephen and Anne.
At breakfast from 6 a.m, you'll always be caught up with everything you need to know, the latest headlines, opinions and debates.
We'll bring you the good news and the bad, but most of all, we're here for you.
Remember, send in your views and let us know what you would like us to talk about.
That's because we're your news channel. And every morning at 6 a.m, it's breakfast on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Coming up on The Mark Steyn Show, as we approach another heatwave and water supplies are faltering, Leilani Dowding will be on hand to ask why no reservoirs have been built in the UK for over 30 years. As the United States revs up for the midterm elections, Natalie Winters will be highlighting how election fraud claims could put a spanner in the works for the midterms. Plus, as Liz Truss pledges support for fracking and nuclear energy, we are joined by Sam Ashworth-Hayes to tackle the Tory tumult. All that and more on The Mark Steyn Show tonight from 8 o'clock.
Welcome back to Dewbs & Co with me, Michelle Dewberry, keeping me company until 7 o'clock tonight. My panel, Daniel Moylan, a former advisor to Prime Minister Boris Johnson, and Dr. Lisa McKenzie, the ethnographer and academic. Lots of you guys getting in touch. Mark has got the answer. He says, Michelle, this is all a self-inflicted energy crisis due to the incompetence, energy policies of successive governments over the last 2 or 3 decades. The solution, he says, is simple. scrap the green subsidies, stop importing gas and electricity, and get fracking. Oh, and start building nuclear power stations. It's not difficult, says Mark. There you go. As he just fixed it single-handedly. You should be charging yourself out as a consultant. Could make a small fortune with plans like that. Anyway, keep your thoughts coming in. Energy, what are we going to do about it? You tell me. Now, let's move on, shall we? Because it's been reported today that Extinction Rebellion protests have cost the Met Police over 60 million pounds since 2019. But it won't stop there, by the way, because there's even more rounds of protesting being planned. Mass disruption in September. Their aim, of course, is all about the climate change, getting us to take it more seriously, etc., etc. Now, who shall I start with? Something tells me that my panel are going to massively disagree on this one.
It's a nice, quiet one, this.
Yes.
Not like the last one will be.
Right.
We'll see.
Let me start with you, Daniel. Do you think we need to get tougher on protesters?
Well, I don't care how much money the police spend if protesters who are disrupting other people's lawful life and business are taken off the streets and stopped from disrupting them. I don't mind if people go out and protest. I'm perfectly happy if they go out and protest. But they don't have to stop traffic. They don't have to stop people going about their lawful business. And if they do, they should be taken off the streets straight away by the police. That's my view.
Yeah, but in this day and age, Daniel, you see it all the time, don't you? These guys glue themselves. I mean, I'd love to even know what glue they use because they seem to stick fast. Only glue I've ever used, it's rubbish. It hardly sticks. But these guys use whatever it is, stick themselves to the floor. And then our law enforcement come along messing around with whatever substance
well, I saw
it is.
A guy on a video. I saw a guy in Italy pull some... get some sticky in a museum where they were doing it on pictures. Get some and just pull the hand off. I think it stung a bit.
But I think
and I think they might have to sting a bit. I mean, you glue yourself to the street. That's a street. That's public property. That's public highway. We're entitled to use that street. And you're not entitled to prevent us and obstruct us from using that highway.
Well, where do you stand on it, Lisa?
Well, Extinction Rebellion, it's kind of low-hanging fruit. Most people dislike them intensely, and most people, and in London, people really don't like that. I don't like them. I remember a few years ago when they were stopping people at 6:30 in the morning getting to work by climbing on top of the tube trains. And, when we think about Extinction Rebellion, it's very easy to kind of say, we need to get these protesters off the street. But there's a bigger debate here about what our democracy means and what we can and can't do in our democracy. And protest is something that is historically and culturally embedded in our democragy.
Yeah,
that we can go out, that we can go out and we can protest, and we can
to the street.
And as one of the viewers said that Michelle was sort of reading out a few minutes ago, is we need mass protests to show the government and to show the energy companies that we're not happy and that we don't want to be robbed anymore by these energy companies. So if we all go...
They're not robbing you.
Well, we feel like they are.
Yeah.
But coming down hard on protesters, arresting protesters, getting them off the streets, having new laws to stop protesting, I think is undemocratic and un-British.
But do you not think, are there any limits in your mind? Can people just do whatever they want?
Well, I've been arrested for protesting quite a few times.
Have you been charged?
Yes, yeah, I've been to court for protesting. I've been found not guilty.
But just give me an example of the circumstances. What did you do?
Well, we were protesting against a building in Aldgate East that had got two doors. The front door was for private rented tenants, and the back door near the bins was for social tenants. And we were doing a protest against poor doors, because there's quite a lot of them in London. There's a lot of these sort of buildings where people have to use different entrances.
Yes, the housing associations insist on that.
Yeah, so what we were doing...
I did not know that.
Yeah, so what we were doing is protesting against poor doors.
Right.
There's also
because the housing associations don't want to share the communal facilities with the private tenants. These are the lovely we love the housing associations, but they don't want to share the facilities with the communal tenants, because then they'd have to share the service charge, and they'd have to pass the service charge on to their own social tenants.
So the
They want to
social
have
tenants...
a separate building inside the building.
Yeah. So
which sounds fair enough then.
No, well, no, but
Well, it does sound fair. There is a reason for it.
But the minute we start to separate people on affordability to rent...
Yeah, but that's because we separate people by having social housing.
So what we were...
It's the having the social housing that is the cause of the separation.
So what we were...
Right, so let's go on then. Tell us your story.
So what I was doing is I was picketing the rich side of the door. And we were trying to say to the owner of the building, because actually they're not two separate buildings inside, they're the same building, I've walked through them, and we were trying to say, why can't everyone just walk in the front door? It's not, So
you were stopping people getting into their own house?
No, we weren't. We were just sort of stood on the road. We didn't stop anybody getting in. We were just picketing, and the police said that I had stuck a sticker on the window, and that had caused...
And did you?
No. Somebody else had, but I hadn't.
Right.
And so the police said that was criminal damage because there's some glue stuck to the window. So I went to court. We looked at the CCTV. Someone else had stuck the sticker on the window. So the police then charged me for joint enterprise, saying I was there when another person stuck a sticker on a window. And that's the sort of thing that the police do when it comes to protesting. We had
it's not nothing about new laws.
We had a legal right to protest.
But I'm not saying. But I'm not disputing your legal right to protest. And I do think that putting a sticker on a window is a bit extreme to call that criminal damage. But what we're talking about here is Extinction Rebellion, which isn't doing what you're describing.
But we don't want new laws just because of Extinction Rebellion.
Well, I think we do want new laws to deal with Extinction Rebellion if the police don't deal with them under existing laws.
But the police could deal with Extinction Rebellion a lot better than they do. I mean,
a lot more effective.
When they were sort of...
Do you know what? I'll tell you, I would give them 2 tips if I was ahead of the police. I would say do 2 things. If people start locking onto stuff or gluing themselves there, leave them.
Yeah.
Either leave... If you want to lock yourself to, I don't know, whatever, stay there. Let's see how long you last. Just stay there. Or if you want to glue yourself to a road, I'd rip them off. That's what I would do. Well, if you came to a street near me and you glued your hand to a street and you stopped me doing what I was trying to do, go to work, go to school, I would rip your hand off.
You'd be arrested for that.
What I'm saying with Extinction Rebellion is they're at low-hanging fruit. Everyone knows that they disrupt people's days.
So
ordinary working-class people can't get to work. They don't do themselves any favours at all. What would I do about them? I mean, the police seem to manage them okay, actually, don't they? To start with, they left them alone for days and days and days.
That's what they still do.
But now they don't. I mean, now they arrest them. I mean...
But what do you think to some of these new suggestions then? So some of the new suggestions are creating a new criminal offence of locking on and going equipped to lock on. So you would have a maximum penalty of 6 months imprisonment or an unlimited fine or both. Do you agree with that?
No.
OK. Introducing a new offence of obstructing major transport works. Again, a 6-month maximum penalty or, 6 months imprisonment, unlimited fine. Do you agree with that?
No.
So you don't agree? And then the next one, I don't know why I'm even bothering because I know that you're going to say no. But anyway, interference with key national infrastructure. Again, do you think...
No, and there's a reason. There is a reason, because I've been in that situation where the police has arrested me for putting a sticker on a window that I didn't do, and then because they couldn't get that charge, I couldn't get that charge. They then raised the charge to joint enterprise.
Lisa, I don't understand.
I don't trust the police with these.
I don't understand whether you could be saying one of 3 things. You could be saying you don't approve of Extinction Rebellion and what they do, but they should be allowed to carry on doing it.
Yes.
You should be saying that.
I do say that, yeah.
You could be saying that the police don't need new laws because they could deal with Extinction Rebellion.
I do think that, yeah.
And you could be saying we need new laws. Now,
I don't think we need new laws.
It's one of those 3. So which of the first 2 is it?
I think it's both of those first 2.
So the police have the powers to deal with them at the moment, in your view.
Yeah, I think they do.
But they shouldn't deal with them.
No, I think they should. I mean, the police will
they should, or they shouldn't.
The police should do whatever they do. But protesters should also have a right to protest as well.
But they have a right to protest. But
yes,
should that
do.
right extend to sticking yourself to the street? And if it does, should he be taken off as smartly as possible? I don't.
I mean, if you want to stick yourself to the street, it's not something I would do. I would not do that.
No.
But if you wanted to do that,
you should be allowed.
You should do that if that's what you want to do.
And then if the police, and then what should the police do? Just take you away? Or
if the police want to use the powers that they've got to remove you, they've already got existing powers to do that.
Okay.
We don't need anything extra.
You agree with me that the police should whip them off as fast as possible?
Yeah, yes.
really.
See,
I knew we'd end up agreeing.
Oh, well, there you go.
If that's what
so we're on the same place. And I don't care how much money they spend doing it.
Well,
get on with it.
Yeah, I just think that when we talk about Extinction Rebellion, everybody's heckles goes up. But what we've got to realise is there are big issues coming down the line, and we will need our rights to protest more than ever. So I don't want these new protest laws coming in now.
I have a lot of confidence in democracy as a way of sorting things out.
Do I?
Do I? Don't know.
No, I don't think any of us do we, at the moment?
Oh, well, if you don't believe in democracy, you've given up.
I do believe in democracy. I don't believe that where we are at the moment, we are living in fair and democratic times.
Oh, right.
And I'll tell you, I do actually think that the police should be slower to respond to the people who are responding to the protests, if you followed my sentence. Because I remember seeing lots of, who were they? Was it Insulate Britain or whatever it was, with their stupid banners blocking the roads, thinking that somehow their cause trumped every single other person's ability to get to school, to get to work, to get to hospital appointments, wherever. And I remember seeing truckers or whatever getting a hold of these guys and pulling them off the road, and the police were going for the people doing the pulling,
I know, I saw
and not
that.
the people blocking the road. So something there to me is not quite right. Mike says, Michelle, there's a big difference between protesting and gluing yourself to the road. This is the problem, though. Some people don't think that there's a difference. They think it's absolutely perfectly fine to glue yourself to said road. Paul says, this is simple, Michelle. If people want to glue themselves to roads, get some more glue, pull them off the road, move them to the pavement, glue them to that and leave them there. That's what Paul says.
Pedestrians, they'd be in the way of the pedestrians. I'd glue them to the wall 6 feet up.
Oh,
Out
Vicky.
the way.
Vicky's not messing around. She says, get the water cannons out. Follow the French and do that. Lisa is having absolutely none of that. Right, going to take a quick break. Keep your thoughts coming through. When I come back from my break, I want to talk to you about Donald Trump. He reckons he's the victim of a witch hunt. Is he? And if so, why does it matter? I'll see you in a couple of minutes.
Coming up on Dan Wootton tonight, has New Zealand come to regret its zero COVID obsession? Dr. Jay Bhattacharya, co-author of the Great Barrington Declaration, analyses. Plus, I meet Sinead Watson, a detransitioned activist and former patient at Scotland's version of Tavistock, who wants the gender identity clinic shuttered now. And I'll break down the headlines of the day with my superstar panel. Top Daily Mail columnist Sarah Vine, conservative commentator Dominique Samuels, and author and broadcaster Amy Nicole. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursday, from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. on GB News.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday. And there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. You've been cancelled. Join the club.
Oh, my goodness me.
And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
My name is Andrew Doyle. Join me every Sunday evening at 7 p.m. for Free Speech Nation. This is a show where we address current affairs and news stories of the week with the help of two wonderful comedian panellists. I brought in comics because I want to give it a lighter edge, and also they work for less. See you there.
Hi there, it's Stephen and Anne.
At breakfast from 6 a.m, you'll always be caught up with everything you need to know, the latest headlines, opinions and debates.
We'll bring you the good news and the bad, but most of all, we're here for you.
Remember, send in your views and let us know what you would like us to talk about.
That's because we're your news channel. And every morning at 6 a.m, it's breakfast on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton Tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Hello there, welcome back to Dewbs & Co with me, Michelle Dewberry, keeping me company till 7. A quick reminder, we've got my panel, Daniel Moylan, who's a former advisor to Prime Minister Boris Johnson, and Dr Lisa Mackenzie, the ethnographer and academic. Good evening to both of you. We've just been talking about going back out on the road. We had good fun yesterday. I liked being in my little working man's club up in Manchester. It was excellent. So Lisa's just been saying we should get ourselves down to a miners' village and go and talk to them about energy and all of that. Never say never. I do quite like visiting a watering hole. So let's not, I won't say no. Watch this space, that's what I'll say, because we did have good fun yesterday. Right, let's talk about Donald Trump, shall we? You might have seen the news. It's been quite a week, should we say, for the former President Donald Trump. Yesterday, for example, Trump invoked his Fifth Amendment rights and refused to answer questions when he was interviewed as part of a New York State investigation into his family's business practices. All of this, of course, occurred just a couple of days after his Florida home was raided by the FBI, apparently as part of an investigation into his handling of classified material. This is what Trump said ahead of his questioning in New York. Seeing racist NYS Attorney General tomorrow for a continuation of the greatest witch hunt in US history. My great company and myself are being attacked from all sides. Banana Republic. I don't know, something about Donald Trump. I do smile the way that he kind of talks about his great company. And I think it's always better to let other people compliment you and your achievements. But anyway, I digress.
That's not his style.
No, that's why it always makes me smile. Where do you stand on this? Is he a victim of a witch hunt at the moment?
I think the Democratic left in America is determined to remove him from democratic politics, ideally by putting him in jail. And then they make no secret of this. That's what they want to do. And I think, and they're quite vicious about him. And I've no idea what's behind this raid on his estate in Florida. And I don't know anything about his business. But that's what they're determined to do. It's terribly undemocratic because they want to remove him from the democratic process. And there's a real danger, I think, of a sort of civil war, a breaking apart at least, of the United States over exactly this. I think the FBI is in a very difficult position now because if they, as a result of this raid, they find nothing of any interest, then I think that they're probably finished as an organization. I think they will be broken up because when the Republicans come to power, then they're never going to forgive this. What it's certainly done at the moment, and Trump recognizes this, is it's galvanized his supporters around him. This has definitely strengthened him. But it all comes from the fact that there's a bunch of people in America who think they run the country and they don't want to listen to the views of the majority of, or not the majority, but the majority, a lot of those people in the center of America who don't live on the coasts who've got very different views from them.
Lisa?
I actually do think this is a witch hunt against Donald Trump.
I did not expect you to say that.
And it's not because I've got any kind feelings for Donald Trump. I definitely don't. But I do think that Donald Trump is sort of is symbolic of the sort of Western capitalist democracy that we have now, that we've had since 1945. It's sort of coming to an end. I think we are coming at the end of some sort of historical epoch. I think Donald Trump is symbolic of that. And I think that those who want things to stay the same are very frightened of, you know, the potential of a Donald Trump. I think it's symbolic more than it's about him. So, yeah, I do think there is a witch hunt, but I think it's for perhaps different reasons to, you know, it's not particularly about Donald Trump. It's about the fear of the public in the US choosing perhaps the wrong candidate.
The wrong candidate, eh? One man's wrong candidate is another man's desired candidate, isn't it? Hazel says the Trump family have been harassed since day one. I have to say, I do agree with you on that. A lot of people, it doesn't matter what Donald Trump did, a lot of people simply were never, ever, ever going to be able to accept him, and certainly wouldn't be able to accept him running again. A lot of support, actually, coming in for Donald Trump. Who's this? David says what's happened in Donald Trump seems to be reflected in the UK in the continuous attacks on Boris Johnson by lots of the mainstream media.
That's why it matters here, you see, because it's the same handbook the left in America have been using against Trump that the left here have been adopting against Boris.
Yeah, I think it might be. I think it's more to do with sort of the ending of this sort of political social epoch. Something new is happening. I think that's why it's relevant here. Is that, you know,
I was convinced that we're at the end of the epoch, but I'm open to discussion.
Yeah,
you're open to the concept. Wayne says, Michelle, where on earth are you going to find a miners' village these days? None left. Yes, I know that. I meant more kind of former. I know Lee was one, of course, but we were just talking about Nottingham, wasn't we, for example? Get out and about, go meet the people. That's what we like to do here, don't we? The People's Channel and all that. I like talking to you guys, and even more so in the flesh. What's this? Margaret, of course, Donald Trump is a victim. Before he even walked down the stairs to get inaugurated, many people were vowing to impeach him right from day one. There you go. Lots of ideas about the energy situation coming in as well. You guys, you're very smart. You could earn some money, lots of you, with some of your energy suggestions. Get them sold in to the government because, let's face it, some of them don't seem to have a clue. Right, that's all we've got time for. Thank you very much for your company. Daniel, Lisa as well, thank you for yours. Coming up at 7 o'clock, you've got Nigel Farage. Nigel, good evening.
Thank you. Well, Good evening. As the implications of huge energy bills are now hitting every household, the government meet today in Downing Street and draw no conclusions and take no action. Our big debate tonight on the show is, should the government act now, or is it better to wait until the 5th of September? But before all of that, let's get the all-important weather.
Good evening, Alex Deakin here with your latest weather updates. We still have the Met Office extreme heat warning in place, in fact, until the end of Sunday, with temperatures significantly above average for a number of days and nights. High pressure is the reason why it's so dry, hot and sunny at the moment. There is that extreme heat warning covering large parts of England and East Wales, but it's going to be hot everywhere. The main exception will be northern Scotland, where we've still got a weather front bringing cloud and some outbreaks of rain. That'll continue on and off overnight. We'll see some mist and low cloud returning to parts of eastern England, but otherwise it's dry, it's clear. Some rural spots could dip down to single figures, but certainly in towns and cities, in buildings, retaining the heat, it will be a difficult night for sleeping. On to a hot and sunny day on Friday. May start a bit misty across parts of the east, and there will be some low cloud, at times just flirting with some of the North Sea coasts. We'll keep a lot of cloud in northern Scotland, but it should be a brighter, warmer day across the Highlands and the Western Isles. We could get into the 20s here. Elsewhere, we're widely into the mid to high 20s, low to mid 30s across the south. 36 is possible in some places on Friday afternoon. So a hot Friday evening. Again, overnight, we'll see that mist and low cloud just drifting a bit further inland across eastern Scotland, northeast England. So it won't be as hot here on Friday or on Saturday, where that low cloud could persist. But generally, it's another hot and sunny day on Saturday. Still a bit more cloud in the far north with a little bit of
light rain and drizzle, but otherwise we'll be watching those numbers on the up once more. And again, across parts of the southwest Midlands into Wiltshire, down towards Dorset there, 34, 35, possibly 36 Celsius, and maybe something similar in the capital. So it's a hot weekend. The sunshine will continue for most on Sunday, but a change as this low pressure drifts northwards. We will see more cloud on Sunday. It could bring some showers next week.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday. And there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. You've been cancelled. Join the club.
Oh, my goodness me.
And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. Over a drink, we have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a